fans of movies, fans of film, fans of the nostalgia, fans of pop culture, and fans of the spooky, creepy, kooky things that make us wonder all these decades later. The impact these actors have on us as children, teens, carry on into our elder adulthood, and just make it all more fanatical when we finally come face to face with our idols and horror icons.
You know, it's strange. I didn't go to my first horror convention until maybe 2003, when one started in the Philadelphia area called Monster Mania. Growing up on the East Coast, obviously I was always hip to Chiller, which was in the North Jersey, New York area. It used to advertise constantly in Fangoria magazine, and in the early days of dial-up internet, it was always on horror websites. It was always the banner and stuff like that, and it always had a cool selection of guests between horror people and old TV people and old rock stars and stuff like that. But it wasn't until 2003 when the one came to the Philly area where I went to my first horror convention.
Yeah, you know, I've had a pretty good experience with cons over the years. I can remember a time when I had never been to a con, honestly, and I was watching people attend these things online, and I think what drew me to it initially wasn't the celebrities. It was more so like the bootleg items, the stuff you couldn't really find anywhere. I remember seeing like tapes and obviously tapes, you know, and DVDs of other conventions and just panels and things that you couldn't find online at the time.
Like selling stuff there was the Houston Horror Convention. I think that was 2022, and that was an absolute blast. We met so many people there. It felt like just a giant family. Everyone's having a big party. Everyone, you know, kind of feels like they know each other, even though you're just meeting somebody for the first time. And I thought that was really cool. And everyone had inside jokes, you know, without even really knowing each other. And it was cool because you could quote any movie. People didn't think you were weird. In fact, you were weird if you went there and you were dressed normal. So I thought that was pretty cool to see.
And I remember the big guest was Kane Hodder. And I stood in line for a really long time to meet Kane Hodder. And then we would go to them consistently, and it became like a thing, and you'd get a hotel room and all that kind of stuff. And there was always a cool selection of people, and you'd see a lot of the same people over and over again, but you know, you'd start to get to know people. You know, Sid Haig was always at them, and Felicia Rose was always at them. That was always cool. And you know, the autographs and the collectibles, like you look around my apartment, is nothing but old horror movie stuff, and a lot of that came from, you know, from years of going to different horror conventions. And then when I started doing the YouTube stuff, then I became on the other end of it. Now I'm a guest at conventions. And when he got into filmmaking stuff as well, like it was weird that people like came to meet me and because I'm nobody, you know. But there, you know, we went to some of these cons and like people actually showed up with stuff for us to sign, and it was very bizarre to me because I was like, right over there is like Alex Vincent from Child's Play, and right over there is, you know, Conrad Brooks from Plan 9 from Outer Space. You know, I remember like meeting him and meeting Candace Hillgross from Carnival of Souls, and like my mind being blown that I could go and meet these people who I'd seen in movies a zillion times over and over again, or Robert Englund and people like that. You know, it's like, oh, they're right fucking there, you know.
You know, one thing I notice is the fans every year keep getting younger and younger, and there's someone always that they're excited about that's brought them in the door. There's a star that they're there to see, whether if it's Pinhead or Art the Clown or one of the many Texas Chainsaw Massacre actors. You know, they feel a connection to a film, and all of them have a story, and a lot of them share their stories with us as we're vending or as we're doing celebrity signings. And it's just amazing the things that you hear. Some of these people are special needs, some are autistic, some are just fanatical collectors, and some are just other actors and other aspiring up-and-coming creators. They're there to finally get face to face with someone that they've idolized all these decades later.
I recently had a heart attack, and whenever I met Michael Ironside from Total Recall, he asked me, why are you in this wheelchair? And I was like, well, I just had a heart attack. I just got out of the hospital a couple days ago. And he's like, and you came to this bullshit? You came to see me? And I was like, yeah, dude, like, I didn't mean to come and see you, but you're here, and to me, you're the OG of the panel, Like the black and white clown guy, I'll be able to see him probably in the next 5 to 10 years. He'll be around. The pinhead guy's looking pretty youthful still.
There was no underground exchanges. I mean, I'm sure there were message boards, but a lot of times they were like invite only. And this, like with cons and seeing what people were finding, and what people had on their tables, it was just one of those things that like I really gravitated to. Like, this is the mecca of like the stuff you can't find anywhere else. And then like the celebrities were like icing on the cake ultimately. And like you see these legends that you wouldn't have a chance to see otherwise. And I think that's probably what draws most people to cons ultimately.
When I was about 11 years old, there was this signing at the mall of Mark Paul Gosselaar and Tiffany Amber Thiessen. I guess that technically was the first time I got to meet a celebrity. And I remember I waited in line. I didn't meet Mark Paul Gosselaar because he was a boy and I was a boy, even though Zach Morris was like the coolest ever. This was like the late 80s, early 90s. And I just was not interested on getting the coolest dude ever's autograph or picture or anything because he's a dude. What do I care about getting a dude's picture for? It was weird. When Kelly is right there, Tiffany Amber Thiessen. And I remember I waited in line, got all the way up there, and they both had on these they just had them up on a stage, like sitting beside each other, 2 separate lines, goes onto a stage, 2 tables, and that was it. Their managers right next to both of them, and lurking over everything. And Tiffany Amber Thiessen on this side, Mark Paul Gosselaar over here, they both had these big, huge, dark glasses on. And all I could see on her face, because the glasses were so big, was acne peeking out with a bunch of makeup covered up over here. It was heartbreaking to me. I'd only seen her on TV. I didn't understand how it worked. I was 11. And I remember thinking, what the hell? These guys got on sunglasses and look like shit. I mean, frankly, they look hungover. And God bless them. They had been probably signing autographs to kids for freaking days, and who knows what tour that was, that they were on. But man, they looked like they would probably, now as I'm an adult, I realize they were probably hungover as hell. Like they just partied the night before hard. I didn't understand, the movie makeup hiding acne and things like that, and to get right up that close to someone. I remember getting her autograph and her picture. Like back then, they didn't really take a picture with you and them, but you got their autographed 8x10. And I remember I didn't even really care about it. I felt so gypped and like kind of lied to because she didn't look the same as I thought. Flashback to nowadays, she's beautiful. She's even more beautiful. I mean, she was beautiful then. It's just, it really affected me as a kid. I was like, expectations were not met that one particular weekend that summer. I feel like an asshole, but that's a memory. She's the most beautiful girl ever, you know what I mean? I'm like a troll talking about like, yeah, she had zits. No, I don't mean it like that. That just always stuck in my head, the reality of people being normal, no matter how famous you are. We're all, unperfect creatures, so we're all a little troll to someone. So it's pretty cool.
A buddy of mine that was actually helping us run the booth, his name was Kyle. He had drank for, I think, 36 hours straight, and at one time we had actually lost him. So we were looking around the hotel for him, and we found him in somebody's bed, passed out, and we get him back home, or to the Airbnb. And the next day we're selling our stuff, and the entire morning everyone just kept coming up to us, people that we had never seen before, and they were like, hey man, what's up, what's going on? Oh dude, you missed out last night on da-da-da. So I guess Kyle had his own little adventure without us even knowing, and people were just coming up to us and telling us all these things Kyle had done. And so later on throughout the day, we actually pulled a prank on him, and we got some of our new friends that we had met earlier that day to go up to him and just act like Kyle like stole our car and did all this wacky stuff. So
I love watching the different types of people who go to conventions as well. Like I love when there's like little kids dressed as like, you know, as like Leatherface and stuff like that. It's funny, you know. The horror community is great in that regard, because I remember growing up, I'm 42 years old, and I remember horror being kind of like a dirty word, you know, like if you watched horror, you were weird. And I remember, like, again, Fangoria magazine, I remember going to like the bookstore or going to like a magazine shop and like reading it, but feeling like I was like reading Hustler magazine. Like people are going to be staring at me for reading, you know, this thing that has like, you know, like Ringu on the cover or Wolfit on the cover or whatever was out at that time, you know, and just being like, oh no, not me, like put another magazine in front of it or something like that, you know. So you had your other little fucking punk rock friends who were into Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and Phantasm and all that kind of stuff, and we would go out of our way to rent VHS tapes, and you know, we had our own little secret language because we had seen all this shit, and we were horror nerds growing up, you know. I told the story before on my own YouTube channel, Schlock and All Films, about like finding out from a dude about Faces of Death and thinking like, this is the moment we become men, this is our Vietnam, and riding our bikes like 2 towns over in 1993. Like imagine nowadays like kids being allowed to do that, you know. But now it doesn't matter, because even with the VHS stuff, like everything is at your fingertips right now, and we had to like hunt for things like we were fucking horror movie archaeologists or some shit, and like paying a dude leaving the 7-Eleven to go in and rent us Face of Death and getting it home and popping it in the VCR and thinking like, this is the moment, you know, we're never going to forget this. And we didn't forget it. It just was not what we thought it was going to be. But because some dude kept the kayfabe to bring it on to us, we kept the kayfabe to the next kids that we told about, and so on and so forth. And I found out that like that was like a thing all over that kids did, and that was the cool thing about going to horror conventions. There was a point to that story. It was all coming back around. That like you find out in the age of the internet and in the age of going to these cons and like that you weren't alone. And I was weird, you know, but you weren't weird. The other people were into the same nonsense that you were into, you know. And that was really, really cool and eye-opening for me, because for so long you feel like, you know, like, oh, I'm the only person who knows this crap. And then you go like, oh shit, one of us.
I feel like some shows kind of gotten like a rock star complex, and it sucks because we love to see them explode and become rock stars, but they get kind of greedy and they take away what makes the show so special. So if you have a show once a year, that makes it very special. Everybody all year is thinking about that show coming up. They're going to save their money. If they're vendors, they're going to make special products for it. It makes everything that much more special when it is annual. But these convention guys, man, they get so greedy that they want to do these pop-up shows. Whoever started the pop-up show craze, man, I tell you, you're ruining the coolness of the conventions little by little, more and more every time. So I avoid the pop-up places now, even if it's really great shows, because you go to their annual show, and if they've already had 2 or 3 pop-ups that year, and you're a vendor trying to make some money, nobody's there to see you. They're going just specifically for whatever celebrity has not been there that is the hot ticket. They're not bringing any extra money for the bullshit. For you, for nothing. So if you've drove cross country and stuff to try to make, you know, a couple grand or whatever that weekend because you spent money on the booth and gas and everything, avoid the pop-up shows unless you're local to the place. Because if you're a vendor, they're coming just for said celebrity that's at that little pop-up show. So then if you go to the annual one, everybody's all, like, it took everything special away from it. Everybody's all used to it and cashed out. Nobody has nearly the amount of spending money that they usually do for them. So that's just something that I've picked up and I've noticed, in my opinion, And in my documented travels working shows for the past 2 or 3 years, a lot of them go that way. And if the celebrities' prices are too high, that also trickles down and hurts the vendors too. So we have to have some type of chill ecosystem that respects both sides of it to have a successful convention, I believe.
Texas Frightmare, Creep Econ, Days of the Dead, Flashback Weekend in Chicago, Scarefest in Kentucky. I've been to a lot on a professional level, having the store. But every time I go, it's my happy place. And I believe that a lot of horror fans can say that. It's their happy place. It's where we can go and we feel like we fit in somewhere finally, you know? We're around a bunch of other people that love the exact same thing that we do. And again, meeting some of your heroes from some of your favorite horror movies.
Hearing the screams. I love hearing people scream for real or for fake. Preferably for real. When you hear somebody scream, and you see somebody take their last breath, it's the closest you get. It's the closest you feel to somebody. You feel inside them. You feel them forever.
You know, I'm a fan. I'm a hardcore fanboy. I didn't mean to do this and get this far and make a shed with collection and stuff in it, like my own little time capsule. But I'm happy that I did it.
I think everybody should go to a Monster Con, and you should be excited about it.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of conventions and film festivals and all that stuff. This year I'm actually probably going to the most I've ever been to. I think we're going to Washington, New Orleans, some here in Missouri, Texas again. We'll go back to Texas, Indiana. So really just kind of all over the place. If you see me at any of them, feel free to come by, say hello. I'll give you a cursed VHS tape for free if you find me out there. I mean, I'll probably always be going back to the same ones anyways. So if you see this years later, come try to find me.
You know, pay your $10-15 to get in, and then like there's Sid Haig, you know, there's Freddy Krueger, you know, there's Kane Hodder, you know, there's whoever else, you know, Nancy, and that's cool. Like it's we've came a long way since then, and ultimately that's kind of one of the things that I have an issue with as far as cons go these days. You know, you can't even go to a con now and, you know, have a good time without spending, you know, an arm and a leg. I mean, you can have a decent time as long as you map it out correctly and kind of know your budget. But at the same time, you know, you might expect to spend $200, you know, on autographs and photos and, you know, leave with half of what you expected, if that. So I think that the prices are getting a little outrageous. You know, you're getting these like C-list stars, D-list stars, you know, no disrespect to them. You know, I understand that making a film is difficult. Acting is difficult. You know, it takes a lot to get to where they are. But for someone that has a 30-second scene to charge $40, $50, $60, $70 is outrageous.
You know, these are all signed. Robert Englund signed. You know, where's the clerks is here all signed. So and we'll see.
I mean, everybody should experience a con. If you've never been to a con before, I highly recommend it to everybody to at least go once. Enjoy it. My girlfriend sees it as just a flea market indoors, you know, a very specific flea market or a craft convention, but it really is a lot more than that. I mean, there's a lot of things to discover.
Cosplayers, to me, actually make a convention. You can't have a convention without the cosplayers, in my opinion. And cosplayers are wonderful. They make things even more fun as you're just kind of walking around and looking at things and doing this and doing that. Then cosplayers are coming around and they're scaring you, or maybe you want to take photos with them and stuff. I have a ton of cosplayer friends. They come up to the booth. We take tons of pictures. And that's always a good time. I love seeing the creativeness of cosplayers. So that's a big part of conventions, and what, in my opinion, really rounds out conventions on making them fun, the cosplayers.
A broad swath of people who are into the same nonsense that you're into, even the most like obscure shit that you can think of. There's probably some chubby dude with a beard walking around wearing that fucking t-shirt, you know? And that's kind of my favorite thing about it. And then parents passing it on to their kids. Yeah, I don't know. I've always been, I don't have any kids. I have a cat, and she's lazy and laying right here at my feet. But I just love going and being around people who are just happy to be there. You know, they're happy to revel in the presence of other weirdos like them. And you know, and the horror community is a tight fucking knit community, man. It's you know, it's a lot of different genders and sexualities and body types and everything all kind of mixed together. People who all felt like they were weirdos and outsiders can all kind of find something when they're in a place like that. And I've always enjoyed that. And like for the first time I went to one, I was like, oh wow, like this is eye-opening, you know? And the more and more I go to them, and the more you see the same people, and there's these little communities of people, you know, you have people having hotel parties, and you're just wandering down the hall from your room, and you get invited into a room, and now you're in there, and, you know, Doug Bradley's in there for some reason. I remember one time I'm hanging out, and Angela Bettis and I were playing, somebody brought like Nintendo 64, and we were playing Nintendo 64 in this hotel room. You wouldn't get that anywhere else, you know?
I go to cons mostly for the innovation. And sometimes, you know, it's for somebody to show me the obvious, but I go to cons so that I can see maybe some innovation that I've missed over the years. I go to the cons so that I can kind of immerse myself in the whole construct of film and comics, and just that whole reality. You know, one of the things that I don't like is politics. I don't like politics in my entertainment. And sometimes that is the entertainment factor for some people. But like at a Monster Con, you're going to see how realistic they make a throat rip. Or how realistic they make a werewolf.
I didn't know I was gonna find love like this. Like I didn't. It's just the people that they love things, you know. They have a passion for something so much that we're willing to like cosplay and retell these stories and make our own versions of these stories. You know, I always like saying, why can't I own a Millennium Falcon and work part-time on the Enterprise? Hell, why can't I just, you know, use a DeLorean, you know?
Hanging out in the bushes, watching people walk by, trying to smell their feet, touch their feet, seeing all the souls in one ring, and collecting blades, like I said. I love a good blade. If you can find me a blade, it'd be amazing.
One year at Texas Frightmare, Texas Frightmare always has a lot of extremely good guests. Anywhere from people from John Carpenter, Robert Englund, Elvira, down to, you know, some, you know, B-rated actors and actresses in more underrated horror movies. But one year I got to meet Lori Lethin. And if you are not familiar with her, she is the main actress in the movie Return to Horror High. That movie to me is very underrated, and I watched that a lot growing up. It was part of my horror movie watching as a child. And you know, you've got all these big actors with long lines over here, and Laurie's sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's Laurie Lethen from Return to Horror High. Oh my God, you know, I'm freaking out. And I immediately go up to her table and we start talking, and she was super sweet, just super kind. I've never had a bad experience with any actor or actress at a convention. And we sat there and talked for a little while and got her autograph. And I was just so super excited to meet her from Return to Horror High. I mean, hello. And she's also in a couple other movies as well that we all know. So yeah, check out Return to Horror High if you haven't watched that. So moments like that. And then my favorite horror movie is April Fool's Day from 1986. And that was a moment to when I met Deborah Foreman. She was in April Fool's Day and also Waxwork, and also 80s comedy, coming of age comedy, kind of Valley Girl as well. And I got to meet her at Mad Monster in Arizona. And with April Fool's Day being my favorite horror movie, and then to finally meet Deborah Foreman, that was when I was having major fangirl moment. You know, again, super sweet. We had a little small conversation, and I told her that April Fool's Day is my absolute favorite horror movie, and she was like, oh my God, you don't get that very much. I'm like, I know. But April Fool's Day means a lot to me. And we just had a whole conversation, got the autograph, got the picture, and then I also did a photo op with her and E.G. Daily for Valley Girl. So here I'm talking to her about April Fool's Day, my favorite horror movie, but yet I do a photo op for Valley Girl, which is not even a horror movie. I mean, that's what conventions can do for you, you know? I mean, to do that, I walked away from her table crying. And that was probably the first time I've had that type of moment meeting an actor or actress at a convention where I was crying, like literally crying when I left her table, because I just, I'm gonna cry now. That for me, meeting her was, you know, like the moment for me. So tearing up now.
You know, I help out with some local cons. I do press at conventions, and honestly, with the local stuff and like with the stuff in Dallas, Houston, Austin, it's anytime there's an issue, these guys that run these shows, man, they go above and beyond to make sure everyone's handled appropriately. You know, they're human too, mistakes are made, and but they efficiently handle the situation, and their teams handle the situation, and they want everyone to have a good time and have fun, and ultimately, you know, make them feel as if their money wasn't wasted.
I said that earlier. I'll say that Texas Farmer has gone up. They're catchy. People want to be part of them. If I'm paying good money, I would at least, I don't want you wearing a mask, or I don't want to be behind glass. If so, I want a discount. Outside of that, you know, we don't ask for much. I know I know how to handle myself. I feel I do. I don't know how other fans do, but as long as you feel the celebrity feels comfortable, and we're you know, we stay within reason. I don't know why they should be like. I mean, I love some of those independent filmmakers. They got the lowest prices because they want to meet their fans and they want to help them out. And dude, Damon Leone, Aaron Green, everybody from Clerks. You know, like you're gonna get, you know, the Brian O'Halloran. He's got good prices. You know, Jeff Anderson, if you can catch him at a convention, he's got good prices. Trevor Furman, sorry. If you look at just where the prices are going, man, these things gotta live. The cost of living in Texas has jumped up so much just because people are moving here. You got to get with the program, get with the game, I guess. And it's just hard. It's hard, but would it be like I go to these conventions and I get myself in a little bit of credit card debt? That's where that's where I put it. Would it be like, do I go and do I miss out on the experience like I did before, or do I just work harder? I'm gonna work harder, but at the same time I want to work smarter. So how can I do it? Or is it, do I go and just get the one, like my original? Do I just go get Arnold and then get the experience of moving around? It's not the same. It's like going to Vegas. That's how I experienced it. Like I can't win money or get a high up in a game without playing the game. If I play one game, hit the jackpot, get it, and I can't do anything, it's kind of defeats the purpose of being there, even though you're up. But I wish I would have had the Arnold one. Now, but even like that, when they said over the intercom, they said, I mean, it's a crazy story. They said they're like, he'll do a photo for $300, and I had the money, but I didn't do it. But 2 weeks later, that money that I didn't touch went into something that came out of a bill or something, or like I had to pay some stuff, and it covered it. So I was like, okay, it worked out. But I told that to myself. But in the long run, I was like, I wish I had an Arnold. And people were like, well, you would have met him. Yeah, but I got a Mike Tyson. I got other people I've been taking photos with. I got a John Carpenter. I got a Joe Dante. It's okay. I've been able to figure this out.
I am not a privileged child actor. I'm not, my brother, before he passed away, he got to meet Howard the Duck during production. He got to go onto the set of Howard the Duck. But my great uncle was a professional wrestler, Tiny Trammell, semi-professional wrestler. He was like, whatever, the B tier. And he went from wrestling to owning a bar to running a honey wagon. And so he was on the set of Back to the Future 3, Howard the Duck, Metro with Eddie Murphy. His truck was the featured old-timey truck that Eddie Murphy said, what am I, Red Fox or something? Whenever he required a Ferrari or something fast. Anyways.
It's crazy. I can walk away crying, meeting an actor or actress that I've watched in movies my whole life, and then go back to my table and then there's people coming up to the Nightmare Toys booth and they're excited to meet us from Nightmare Toys. They've been following Nightmare Toys for a long time, or even myself for a long time, and are a fan of the store, a fan of myself, a fan of Philip or Brian or whoever. And so it's so surreal for me, for that reason, for walking away from one table being a fan and crying, going back to my table, and then somebody coming up and being a fan of myself. It's like, oh wow, and getting excited, meeting us and seeing the store and purchasing something from us and getting a picture with me, or an autograph with myself. So for me, it's exciting on both levels. I love conventions. Conventions, again, like I said, are a huge happy place for me. I've met a lot of friends at conventions. A story I love to tell everybody, my manager here at the store, Brian, I met him at Texas Frightmare back in 2018. He was already purchasing from the store and stuff, and we were friends online. Finally got to meet him and his wife Liz at Texas Frightmare in 2018, and now here we are in 2024, and he's now my manager in Las Vegas. So it's crazy. You see how things like that can happen.
Actor, I think Adrian Paul, he saw Ray Park, and he got like his fake sword, and he threw a sword at what do you call it, Ray Park, and they went at it. I believe I have some video of that somewhere. I got to look for the archives, but I thought that was fun. Highlander versus Darth Maul. I did the Jason David Frank interview. That was kind of crazy for me, just to kind of talk to him and hang out with him. Outside of that, I've seen, I like, or when my very first convention, Goldust and 133 Kid started going at it because, or X-Pac, they started going at it because they're fighting for my attention, and Dusty Rhodes is big, so as he started as Xbox was like, don't go over there, don't like it. He got in front of me and he was like, what are you saying? And I thought that was so cool. When you see wrestlers start going at it, that's always fun.
I remember when I was really little, around 9 or 10 or something like that, and my mom had all these horror VHS tapes, and she's not even a horror fan. She just kind of had them. But I remember she was like, do not watch those. Like, stay away from them. It's bad. Whatever. And I found it on VHS, and I remember watching it, and it scared the shit out of me. And she knew I watched it too, so she kind of was playing a prank on me, and had told me that there was some clowns outside, and I was 10. And so it's kind of funny because I couldn't act like I knew what she was talking about, but at the same time, I was, pissing my pants, scared. So really, feeling that, like, sense of fear, I really like that. It makes me feel alive, I like to kind of get that, burst of energy. Yeah, so my mom would, like, have all these horror tapes, and I'd watch them while she was gone at work, and, I'd be at home alone, latchkey kid, whatever. So I was watching them and kind of freaking myself out, and I really liked that fear. And then it just felt taboo, like, I'm getting one over on Mom, I'm watching these horror movies. And then over time, I just always kept on going. And eventually, whenever I left the house, she actually gave me all those tapes, so I kept them and keep collecting tapes to this day.
Again, actors are just ruining the mystique by coming out and talking about politics, in my opinion. It's kind of a bummer of modern age and having too much access to the public.
The autographs are getting a little bit out of hand with some of the people who are coming into the convention scene, that are kind of changing from old guard to new guard, or new guard to old guard in Hollywood and stuff. So they're kind of coping with, all right, this is how I pay my bills now. So you're seeing them getting closer and closer to almost $200 an ask for an autograph, and which is fine, like, I get it, but what that does to a show and to a convention and the ecosystem of vendors is that now all of those people who drove from all over, America to be there, now they're all gonna get a little bit less that weekend. And the reason why that's important is the vendors are simply the backbone of these shows. No matter what the show is, they sell out the vendor booths. The vendors pay for, essentially, the deposit for the show to happen. They're the money that moves the show forward. Then they book the talent.
As I've gone on, I've made movies and stuff like that, and I've been involved in other things. Some of the people I've worked with invite us over to come hang out, and they introduce us to people. And I'm not a clout chaser person. Like, cool, nice to meet you, I saved Kane Hodder, the very first autograph I ever got from a horror person's bag. I was a guest at a horror con in Detroit, and the Uber driver or whatever put his bag down and started wheeling away, and I chased after it and I grabbed it. And later on that night, he thanked me for it. I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. It's all comes full circle. So I love the horror community. I know they get a bad rap. I know, and trust me, I know that there's a couple in there you just go like, But for the most part, I like being around people who are just, when they're in that space. Horror fans usually aren't hiding what they're into. You meet a horror fan and you pretty much know right away that they're a horror fan. But I like when they're in that space and they can be who they are and who they wish they could be every day. And that's really cool and something that I find special about that entire community. And anytime I can go to one as a guest or just go as a patron, I try to, because I'm always on the lookout for weird memorabilia, or maybe there's like an actor or something like that I want to meet. In the other room here, I have a ton of framed autographs and stuff like that that I've gotten over the years from people. And no, it's cool. Again, when you're gonna have a chance to meet some of these people and tell them how much they meant to you.
Huge fan of horror conventions. I like to hang out there, see how many humans go in there, see if I can smell anybody, listen for their heartbeats. I like to collect blades at the horror conventions. This is one that I found. It's only got a little bit of blood on it here. Just a little bit of blood. That's okay. You can clean that up later. Hang on, 1 second. Thirsty. All these horror conventions are really wear me out, you know. My favorite thing about horror conventions is hanging out in the bushes, watching people walk by, trying to smell their feet, touch their feet, you know, seeing all the souls in one room, and collecting blades, like I said. I love a good blade. If you could find me a blade, it'd be amazing. I really like to go to the conventions and you know, hang out in the corners and just kind of people watch, you might say. I've been to probably thousands of conventions. Each year I just travel. I got old Honda, just kind of living it, driving around, wait for the conventions. The thing is about conventions, they're always going.
We've been going to this stuff for a while now, and my oldest, my 8-year-old, you know, he comes to the panels. You know, he watches scary movies occasionally, and you know, he's hanging out with like these guys that play Jason, and I mean, he's hanging out with you know, people from Donnie Darko, and it's funny to see because he has no, like, to him these are just people, because he dresses up and goes to the cons just like everyone else, and you know, to him it's just like, that's cool, you're in a movie, my dad's in a movie too, or my dad works in movies, or my dad works with cameras.
But at the same time, there needs to be a better vetting system, because if, say, this very popular Halloween company, I won't say their name, but let's say it's Hello Halloween Studios, and they make masks, right? So all these small shops and vendors that also sell Halloween masks sell Hello Halloween's products. So if Hello Halloween themselves is going to be at said show, or all the shows, we don't need 47 vendors also selling up-priced merchandise from, you guessed it, Hello Halloween. That's a bit fucking redundant when there's all these brilliant independent artists there that the whole community thrives on. So don't overlook the vendors and the artists for Hello Halloween just because they're successful. People love it. Duh, they have the IPs that we love. That's the point why we're there. But we don't need 47 vendors or 20% of the showroom floor to all have the same damn masks when we could buy them from the place that makes them right there at the show. So if we could at least do that, I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous. And I talked to the guys from the real company that I'm calling Hello Halloween. They agree. You know, they agree. A lot of people got really mad because now their stuff's available at Walmart and whatnot, and some of these small independent stores are going out of business because they were the only place you could find kind of like cool horror movie related stuff in their towns, and now you could go to Walmart and get Hello Halloween's products there too, because they also make action figures and stuff. Now, I'm all for that because I think that that branches collectors out to having all the available commercial stuff like that, and it makes them then find the one-off stuff in the artists too. So I'm all for that because it helps grow the market. I think that these stores that are going out of business that was relying solely on their catalog being Hello Halloween's products, I think shame on them. They need to be showcasing more exotic and one-off pieces from locals and natives and stuff like that to the community, because there's so many talented people. It doesn't all have to be, you know, this one company, guys. So I think that needs to change in order to protect the future of conventions and how important they are.
But something that I've always liked about it was the innovation. Every once in a while you come across the booth where they're doing something innovative in marketing, or they're doing something next level with a product. And it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, starting to go to like the horror cons and the monster cons, you think you understand practical effects, and then you see something where you're like, oh shit, like that's next level, I know for a lot of people the cons are like it's like a fan thing, it's fan driven. But I've never gone to even a magic show and not looked in the wings. Like if I'm at a concert, I go look at the soundboard. I go try to figure out what, controls what. Not that I'm going to jump on there and pirate it, but I've always, like I said, like at a magic show, I'm looking in the wings for ropes and mirrors. And
a lot of these people, these characters symbolize some kind of strength in them, or it helped them get through situations. And when they get to meet these people, and if it wasn't for these types of shows, they wouldn't get to meet these people and express to them what they meant to them in their childhood and in their formidable years. And maybe there's gay kids who gravitated towards a certain character and they felt acceptance there, or whatever. It's all this stuff, and that's what makes that's why I feel the horror community is so different and so special when it comes to the worlds of fandom.
So you don't want to be my friend? That's okay. I'll make you be my friend. By the end of us hanging out, you'll be my friend. Yeah, we'll all be friends. We'll all hang out.
what movies mean to me is there's a lot of different jobs. There's stunt jobs, there's directing jobs, there's makeup jobs. There's a lot of things that need to be done, and I was always hoping that I'd get my foot into something, some way. I mean, as a kid, I thought even a grip would be a cool gig. Now it feels like things are a lot more sensitive, and you can't talk to stars like you could back in the day. And you can't. Contractually, you'll get blackballed if you talk to them. I haven't talked to any yet, but I'm sure my opportunity to get blackballed is coming.
Bad side of it, I think, from a patron's perspective, is the prices are getting a little overwhelming. And I will say that most of that comes from the talent engagement, but the prices to get in are remaining the same. So hats off to those showrunners ultimately for allowing those families to still get in and take advantage of a cool Saturday or Sunday or even Friday. The other thing that I do find a little odd, and I've talked to actors and actresses about this, is that it's kind of like social media ultimately, is that if they have this presence at cons, these fans kind of assume that that they are friends, and it's they think that they can just show up and give them a gift or give them a hug and then get everything for free. And I think people need to remember that these actors and actresses, they're working actors and actresses, and they this is how they earn an income. This is how they earn food on their table, roof on their head, and we got to respect that and remember that as fans, as convention goers, and
Purchasing things from other vendors is a huge thing for me too. I'm a collector of movies, Blu-rays, DVDs, 4Ks, what have you. So I love it when the movie booths are at conventions like Severin, Vinegar Syndrome, Arrow, Full Moon, all those. And then the independent artists too that are bringing their movies. I've purchased several. And then I'm a collector of figures, so it's fun for myself to always find older figures or something that I can't get into the store, you know, for myself, for my own collection. So I love that. And then t-shirts. I'm a big t-shirt fan. Love buying t-shirts at conventions. One of my favorite t-shirt booths is at Texas Frightmare, Lix, L-I-X. They are always at Texas Frightmare, and that I always have to go buy a shirt from them. So that's always fun too. So,
oh, you're the guy that came up with the concept for aliens? No, I didn't meet that guy, but if I did, I would say that to him. I don't mind playing ignorant, you know?
I finally went to Chiller in 2021, and you know, my life had completely fallen apart. I had a complete and total nervous breakdown, lost all my friends, I lost my credibility, everything, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna go. I've never been before, maybe this will get me out of my head. And Dracula from the 1971 Al Adamson, Sam Sherman, Dracula versus Frankenstein was there. He was promoting a comic book that two other friends of mine have made, and Steve Stelly and Dexter Weeks. And so they introduced me to him, and I just had the biggest fucking smile on my face you could ever possibly imagine. And it's so silly to even think that, because I've met some famous fucking people in my life, like from all the years of doing different jobs and shit like that. And I've never really been, I'd be like, ooh, that's cool, that's that person. You know, but I've never had the kind of smile on my face when I met fucking Dracula, because. And like he's like, I don't understand. It's a garbage movie, and I was like, sure, it is. But back in the early 2000s, when I was going through my cancer treatment, I would watch that movie on repeat. I had a little mini DVD player with a screen built into it, this little white one. The battery died so fucking fast, and I had the trauma release of Dracula versus Frankenstein. I would watch it constantly. So he became my favorite, not the best Dracula, but my favorite Dracula because of that situation. And I got to meet him, and I just thanked him so fucking much. He's like, I didn't do anything. I was like, no, but you did.
I was finding people that were in the same boat as me and still getting by, people that are just learning how to do things, people that I feel like where my skill level's at, I can show more. I haven't been showing lately because I've just been dad, but as I'm coming out the shells more and more, I like these smaller conventions, man. My favorite moments are, you know, when I did get the signatures for Monster Squad. I have 9 signatures on that, I think. No, I have 6. I get 7 one soon, so I'm probably gonna have 9. I'm trying to get 10, get them all. But like now that I'm going and doing that, like going and I got Peter Cullen and Frank Welker signatures. Like that was at Dallas Fan Expo. They were at Greater Austin Comic Con 3 years ago or something like that, and I had the opportunity they were right there, and I didn't even talk to them. I was like, you know, it's like the fanboy thing for me is serious. I noticed the first time I meet somebody, it's hard, but the second time it's easier for me. It's just like, all right, cool. It's just, you know, it's a fanboy thing.
Some actors I looked up to whenever I was a kid was like Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, definitely Harrison Ford was a huge guy for me. Keanu Reeves. I'm more like now I'm digging like Jake Gyllenhaal. Like the new Roadhouse is hilarious. I don't really like a lot of stars. Like a lot of stars have ruined that for me. Talking too many politics or talking too much outside of character. I just want them to be that character. Tom Hardy, though. Tom Hardy's one of my favorites actually right now. Now I'm really thinking about it. But I am looking up to like Jake Gyllenhaal and his versatility. Ryan Gosling has some really dark stuff out there before all the goofy stuff he started doing recently. He has some really dark stuff that I like.
A lot of the complaints that I see online are very out of left field, people assuming that they can do everything in one day. You know, even like the seasoned convention goers, you know, a lot of times can't do it all in one day. You can't walk the convention floor and, you know, meet the heavy hitters. Is like you can't meet everyone and then expect to hit up panels and eat and catch a screening of the fan favorite film. It's just not a reality. just do what you can, have a good time, enjoy your friends, enjoy your family, and yeah, just try to have fun. More often, I can't honestly remember a time that I haven't had fun. Texas Frightmare, Houston Horror, Cult Classic, those are like my homes away from home. And you know, I love everyone that runs those shows, and I know that I can call on them if I need anything, or if something's not right. And yeah, it's just it's my family. And
I really like to go to the conventions and hang out in the corners and just kind of people watch, you might say. I've been to probably thousands of conventions. Each year I just travel. I got an old Honda, just kind of live in it, driving around, wait for the conventions. The thing is about conventions, they're always going. There's always a new one I could be at. There's always a new city I could be in, a new state, a new place, new friends I can make. Any day, any time, any place.
It's something we all have in common. We all seek the same thing, and for me specifically and personally, there's certain topics as I get older I don't like having or talking, and that you don't need to do. And if I can stay in a world like X-Men or a horror world or a genre, and people just want to hang out and talk about those things and how those characters do certain things, and I'll do there. I'll hang out. I like that.
There's a lot of fucking weirdos who go and meet celebrities and make them uncomfortable and stuff like that. But a lot of this stuff, like kids who gravitate towards horror, a lot of times it's kids who don't come from the best upbringing in homes. At least that's from me. There was a lot of childhood trauma and stuff like that, and I gravitated towards the monsters. My therapist thinks it's funny. I'm getting very open with everyone right now. That there was a lot of some bad things happened to me when I was a kid, and subconsciously I used the monsters as a kind of defense mechanism. That I was always imagined that Jason would be there to protect me, the Wolfman would be there to protect me, Frankenstein's monster would be there to protect me. They never killed kids, they never hurt kids. My dryer's done, my clothes are done.
I was actually at a marijuana con in Las Vegas, and there was like a shoe con, and then there was the Comic-Con, and I was like, okay, the shoe con is pretty nerdy, pretty dorkish, but the Comic-Con I can get with. And so whenever Modesto, where I am from, had their first Comic-Con, I was actually asked to go around and do interviews with people. And that's whenever I realized that there was a second hustle to this con, and it was autographs and selfies.
I mean, the Jason David Frank interview I left, I was just so hyped. Like that thing clearly was like one of the best things in my life. And getting an interview and getting to work and spend time with him. I always say there's 30 minutes there that I didn't record. It's the 15 minutes before we shot the interview, and there's the 15 minutes after, maybe like 20, 30 minutes after. We just hung out. We just talked. And that plays in my head. And I'm like, that's a great experience. That's fun. But where you're seeing like where I paid for stuff, and I just recently paid a pretty penny for the meet Frank Welker and Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime, and Megatron and Optimus Prime. And that was pricey, but that was fun. The cool thing about this, I met other Transformers fans that knew way more than I did, but they're accepting, like, hey, he loves the movie, he does this, he gets that. Like, I get it, I love that. I love meeting the fans in line. That's where you make your best friends, are in line where you're waiting.
I remember I was pretty young when I attended my first convention, and it was actually World of Wills, and I thought that was just so cool to be able to see the Batmobile, to be able to see the Ecto-1, and all these like Ed Roth, Rat Fink inspired Rat Rod cars, Kit from Knight Rider. Like if it was a vehicle from a movie, it was there. It was at World of Wheels. And then they would have the 1960s Batmobile, and Adam West would be there to sign autographs and stuff, or they would have like the Interceptor from Mad Max, and that was really exciting for me as a kid. And man, I was addicted from there. and I didn't really even care so much about the cars. Like, they got me there, the cars got me there, but I wanted to meet whoever was there to represent the vehicle from that IP, you know, as a child. It was really, really fun. And, you know, that spoiled it for me right out of the gate. Like, I was addicted from the get-go there with just that fan, celebrity, nostalgia, childhood dreams, fantasy, like, all coming together. It was so gratifying, you know. I was addicted, and here I am still addicted to that same thing, and I make movies with these people.
And you know what? Like, Flash Gordon wouldn't even talk to me until I paid his $20 signature fee. And I was basically hired by the con to go around and do interviews with some of these people. Doug Jones, he was way cool. Punched me right in the chin. I didn't even realize all the movies. That's one of the things that does unlock for me whenever I go and talk to these actors. Sometimes you don't realize how many things that they've been in. You know what I mean?
Keith David was feeling sick, and there he was saying, "Nah, I mean, he took a yeah, we got to hang out with him for like 10 minutes as he prepared the tea, and he was trying to feel better. But he met us, and then right after he was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a break." And then he like took the break off for a while. But if I didn't get it then, I wouldn't have got him. But I like the reason I bring that up is because like you never know when someone's gonna go, or when they're gonna like take off, or when they need a break, or when they got signatures. Like, you want to make sure you get it. And I just felt like, you know what? Let me have a VIP. Let me just go straight to him, talk to him, and you know, you don't want to miss out on that, because I missed out on Jason and Frank a few times. And when I finally had the courage to talk to him and be myself, he was accepting. So
now I'm hearing it's getting as crazy as like you have to pay $10 on top of the auto to get the 8x10, which is outrageous to me. That's nickel and diamond. That's taking advantage of your fans. And you can say it's all, you know, the agent or the representative, but in all reality, you have the choice as the talent to say yes or no. And that's that. So if you're doing that, or if you hear or see anyone doing that, yeah, let them know. That's shiesty.
Tell you one thing that's for sure going on is convention prices for autographs and signings keep going up more and more, but attendance isn't going up. I would say after COVID, of course, everyone was hungry. We were waiting to get at it, spend money, get all that extra money, and the disaster money that everyone got too. People, you know, made poor choices with that. So that was epic. That was a historic year for vendors and conventions that year. But, you know, ever since, it seems to be less and less and less people coming in. You know, it's gaining popularity, but it's also gaining popularity. So everyone, every city, every state, multiple cities, multiple suburbs, they're all putting on a show now.
There's something special about going to a con and being able to buy like a legit prosthetic or a legit mask, or to be able to meet a legit actor from a bad horror movie. It humanizes it for one, and it makes it a little bit more tangible. You know, for the fans, it's always a delight. I remember I met Doug Jones, and I was talking to him, and Doug Jones is just a regular dude. You know, recently I met Michael Ironside from Total Recall, and he doesn't even think of doing the cons as anything different than doing a play or a movie. It's, you know, he's portraying a character, Michael Ironside. Like, he's not a character outside of that building. Like, he goes home and he's a gardener. I think that reality, you know, I used to go to professional wrestling, and you'd see Coco Beware walking all sweaty down the aisle, and you realize Coco Beware is just a human like me, and he's got a job to do. And I think that kind of helps some people wrap their head around what an actor does. But the horror cons are like another level, you know. I mean, you see a guy walking around dressed as Beetlejuice the whole time, or somebody dressed as a critter, a giant critter, you know, walking by. And it looks good. It doesn't look like a garbage bag, you know, like a bad Halloween costume. It's inspiring. I don't understand all of the... I mean, there's collectors of everything, right? You know? I just don't understand some of the huge statues, you know? Like Joe Rogan has a giant, the Werewolf of London in his studio. Like, yeah, that's cool to collect, but like some of these guys got like a whole gallery of these characters. You know, they've got a Michael Myers, they've got a Freddy Krueger, realistic, you know, wax, you know, chilling. And to me, it's like a waste of money if you're not going to try and use it in your own movie. But that's just me. Again, I'm going for the practical reason. You know, I'm not going for the CGI. I'm going to watch, like, you know, there's always somebody getting done up, like somebody's showing you their makeup, and so they're actually doing up a model right there live. It's interesting when they do the whole face and they put the person into that character, but again, like, I'm gonna stare at that for a while and try to figure out how to do it easier than paying those nominal prices. Because, you know, let's face it, like the people at the cons, they're paying a chunk of money hoping that they sell enough of their prints or enough of their makeup effects or enough of their autographs to make it worth their booth fee. And so I think, like, for me, out of respect, I go touch every booth. I go look at every booth. I feel bad for the booths where people just kind of just like glaze over. I don't understand what this booth is, and they just go away. Go ask a question. Go ask the person at the booth how long they've been doing this, even if it's a horrible craft. You know, I use the example of the Dreamcatcher booth a lot because it's like, oh, cool, you learned how to weave a thing into a circle, and it means something to you, but like the rest of the world, like it's kind of like veganism or yoga. Like you kind of gotta draw somebody in, right? So, like, you know, seeing Robert England at a Monster Con, or seeing seeing Flash Gordon in the flesh. A lot of these guys are still being characters. Like, you're not always going to get to meet the actual actor that portrayed that, and that's fine, you know. But for me, again, it's like a practical effects swap meet, and for some people, it's like their whole life. Like, I know this girl. She was one of the FundMe producers, the GoFundMe producer, or the Indiegogo producers, or whatever, for I can't think of the movie because I haven't watched the series at all. But it's the black and white clown guy that just like smiles at everybody. You know, she went to a Monster Con and paid for everybody to autograph and everybody to do a selfie, that's like $100 and something per actor. That's a lot, dude.
80s, 90s, and early 2000s, actors were just actors, and it was amazing. And if you got a chance to meet one of them, it was a really big deal. Unfortunately, the way technology has worked present day, we know way too much about actors and industry people, way more than most people even care to know. Matter of fact, dare I say, things were much better when it was simpler, before we knew what your take on race, religion, politics, all these things were, and we just knew you as that awesome character from our favorite movie. That was the best. You know, I wish we could go back and just be stuck in the MySpace decade. Forget Facebook, forget Twitter, forget Google and all this stuff, man. These people, we do not need to know all the things that make you work and tick, like seeing behind the curtain how the sausage is made. A lot of people have a hard time grasping. Looking behind the curtain how the sausage is made. Well, a lot of fans have a hard time grasping that this actor who's so good at acting is nothing like their character and doesn't relate to them at all. That could be utterly heartbreaking. The days were so much better when we just knew people like Ron Perlman as the Beast or as Hellboy, not as like this political guy that's talking about all this stuff. And you know, there's a handful of people that I used to absolutely love, and I just wouldn't even care to have their autograph nowadays because they've just ruined it by being so tyrannical about their opinions on stuff that's like political or religion. And it's just, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, we didn't have that. We just had the love of the actor, the love of the role, the love of their talent. Now it's like we have to take everything in these little proportions, and it really took the fun out of it. It took the fun out of all of it. So hats off and tons of respect to actors out there who still keep that stuff private and just do this for the love and for the fans, because so many of them just care about you. They don't care about the reality of you. They care about you, your talent. They're worshiping you. I mean, take it. It's a pretty special thing.
Conventions, they're not going anywhere. Like, people love these too much. Talent is going to be different because now people are coming out of the woodworks, and I want to see what we're going to do with like YouTube stars and Vine stars. And I don't know if people want to meet them too much, but just somebody like, you know, Logan Paul and all those guys.
Love conventions. Love having the conventions, and I'm sure every horror fan can agree with that.
Have fun, bring a fan, cash is king, and yeah, you know, most of these are fun, dude, and they're fun with your kid, and they're fun alone. I mean, you can't not have a good time. So tell them Jesse sent you if you're at any of the Texas cons, and I'll see you there.
Keep the good conventions getting greater.
These horror freaks out, broken the chains in a spooky rage, and now coming for you to a town without a clue, spraying the jets and the devil's rain. These are the fears of pregnant deer. This all smells bad, it really reeks, it really stinks. It's the goddamn convention creeps, fucking creeping into line. Creepy shit on Halloween scene. Convention creeps, fucking creeping into line. Creepy shit on Halloween scene. Fuck, and Duke. If you convention creeps really get macho. Oh, beep, pop, choo-choo, Jesus, she's a people, a finger pump, convention, creeps in your sleep.